So today we will discuss about the skeletal system, human skeletal system, and important points from same for your GPAT, Niper, drug inspector, and pharmacist. So I'm not going to take this chapter in a very detail. I'm just going to highlight some important points that you have to remember for the exam. If you want to read this chapter in the detail, you can read from Ross and Wilson, Anatomy Physiology by Ross and Wilson. This skeletal system. See, our human body is made up of a different kind of system, like your nervous system. We have seen that. Then cardiovascular system is there. Then your urinary system is there. Your excretory system is there. Your reproductive system is there. Your locomotion system is there. Skeletal system is a part of your locomotion. Locomotion means how you can move from one side to another one place to another place by using your body. That is a skeletal system. Again, the skeletal system has a different function in body. That is a supporting framework for your different organs. So for example, your heart, your lungs, and all that, they are located in the thoracic cavity. So they are protected by the thoracic cage. So your bones also have protection function. They will have a locomotion function, production function, locomotion function. Again, there are certain bones, long bones, which involves the bone marrow. In that bone marrow, there is a production of your blood cells. So hematopoietic system, hematopoietic function is also there. So bone has a different kind of functions. So they will act as a storage form of minerals, like for example calcium phosphate, then phosphorus, etc. Some minerals they are stored in the your bones. So they will act as a storage form for some minerals. They will act as a protective function. They will have a hematological function. They will have a structural framework. The main function is the structural framework for the body. कि आपके बॉडी का स्ट्रक्चर जो है दैट इज बिकॉज स्ट्रक्चर शेप है ना, शेप साइज दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द बोन्स कि आपका लुक दिख रहा है, किसी के कान बड़े है, किसी का नाक बड़ा है, किसी का कद बहुत ज्यादा है, किसी का हाइट ज्यादा कम है. That is all because of your bones. So structural framework, that is the first function. Second function is nothing but the protection of delicate organ or underlying. So for example, protection of your heart, thoracic heart, lungs. Then digestive system is done by thoracic cavity. Protection of brain is done by skull. Protection of eyes, nose, that is done by your facial. Protection of your spinal cord is done by using vertebral column. So bones are involved in the structural framework, then production. Then there are certain long bones, like for example femur. This femur. So femur also has a bone marrow. Bone marrow, and that bone marrow is nothing but the spongy tissue inside the matrix of bone. So that is responsible for the production of your RBC. जो blood cell होते हैं वो bone marrow में produce होते हैं, particularly for long bones and flat bones. Is a pelvic bone, femur, etc., tibia. So these kind of bones will have bone marrow, where there is a production of blood, where there is a production of formation of RBCs and WBCs. Then again, this was the third function. Fourth function is shape and size. And fifth function is nothing but the storage form of your minerals. So minerals are the stored in the form of your bone. So calcium, phosphate, magnesium, etc., etc., chlorides, all the minerals that your bones will act as a storage form for. So it is just a overview of your human skeleton. So it is known as a it is known as a appendicular skeleton. So upper truncal part. So upper truncal part consists of a skull. In that you have different joints, different frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone. This is known as a thoracic cage. These are known as upper limbs. That is known as a pelvic bones. This is the spinal cord, sternum, clavicle, etc. So largest bone is nothing but the femur. Largest and strongest bone of body is largest and strongest bone of. Then this is the upper body part. This is lower body part. So these bones they are joined together by ligaments, fibrous tissues known as ligaments. There might be a joint formation. If two bones articulate with each other for a specific movement, that is nothing but the joint. So these are nothing but different kind of bones you might have seen in the 12th also. So if you want to revise, you can revise in the. So just remember this. What are the important points? Now we'll see. So what are the different types of bone? So remember that what is bone actually? So bone is the strongest and durable type of connective tissue. It is a connective tissue. Connective tissue means it will connect two different tissues or two different cells or two different systems. 65% of the bone matrix is nothing but the calcium salt, mainly calcium phosphate. This is called as inorganic matrix, which gives strength and hardness to the bone. कि bone में क्या है 65% जो mixture है bone में वो that is a calcium phosphate का salts है. That part is known as a inorganic matrix, which will provide the strength and hardness to the bone. Then organic matrix is composed of collagen called as osteoid, which provides the bone flexibility. So bone is made up of two matrix, inorganic matrix, which is made up of calcium phosphate, which is 65%, and remaining 35% is nothing but the organic matrix that is made up of collagen. Collagen is a fibrous tissue. Collagen and osteoid. Osteoid means bone cell. Osteoids means bone cell, which provides bone flexibility. Bone are the tough and strong, so the flexibility is provided by this collagen. Now cellular component is less than 2%. Bone में सेल्स कितने हैं लेस देन 2%. सेल भी कौन से होते हैं ओस्टियोसाइट्स ओके osteoblast and osteoclast. There are three types of cell present in the bone: osteocytes, osteoblast, osteoclast. That is the introduction to bone. Now there are different classes of bone, so we'll see what do you mean by long bones. Long bones means the bones uh, which are having the uh, shaft and your articulating surface. So that is known as long bones. For example, femur and humerus. इसमें shaft भी होगा और articulating surfaces भी होंगे. That is known as the long bones. Long bones, for example, femur and humerus. Femur is also known as thigh bone. Humerus is nothing but it is a bone of your arm. Short bones कौन से थे? For example, carpals, which is known as a wrist bone. Wrist bone is a type of short bone. And irregular bone, so they are not in a particular shape. They are known as irregular bone. Those bones which are present in the skull, for example, so temporal bone, occipital, occipital bone, temporal bone, frontal bone. That is a irregular shaped bone. So that why irregular bones. Flat bones. So there are certain bones which are flat in the structure and shape. So if you see sternum जो आपका sternum is also known as a breastbone. It is known as a breastbone. So your that connects your clavicle and thoracic cage, known as a sternum. Then ribs are also flat bones. Most of the skull bones are also flat in nature. Some of them are irregular in nature. Now sesamoid bone. So sesamoid bone, for example, uh, they will have sesamoid bone means they will have a triangular shape, and mostly they are act as a connecting bone. So, for example, patella or kneecap. This is just a classes. There are three types of bone cells present in the bone. First one is the osteoblast. So their function is nothing but the bone formation. Then function of this osteoblast is the deposition of inorganic salt on the bone. So osteoblast, they are the bone cells. They are the bone forming cells. Bone कहाँ से बनता है? Osteoblast के सेल से बनता है. उनका काम क्या है कि जो भी मिनरल्स है जैसे कैल्शियम है, फॉस्फेट है, क्लोराइड है, so that minerals they used to deposit on the bone by osteoblast. So that is the function of osteoblast. So ossification process is nothing but the or calcification. Calcification is nothing but the deposition of calcium on the bone. That is done by osteoblast. So next one is nothing but the osteocytes. Osteocyte means it means mature bone cell that maintains and monitor bone cells. Osteocytes are the mature bone cell of originating from osteoblast only. Osteoblast से ही osteocytes बनते हैं, but they are mature bone cells, and their function is to maintain and monitor bone cells. कि bone cell बराबर काम करेगा नहीं. So abnormal functioning of bone cell, that is known as carcinoma. Cancer हो गया होता है bone cancer. Osteoclast. Okay, osteoblast. Remember, blast means they are the forming bones. They are the bone forming and deposition of inorganic salt. Osteoclast means they are responsible for the breakdown. Osteoclast means these are the type of cell which are responsible for the breakdown of bone. Breakdown of bone and releasing of your calcium, phosphate and other minerals. In the area where there is active repair and remodeling is there. So if you got damage, so in that case osteoclast will come in picture and they will perform their function. Their function is nothing but the breakdown of bones, and they will release the calcium and other minerals from bones, okay, in the surrounding areas. There are three type of cells. Just remember: osteoblasts, osteocytes, and osteoclasts. So blasts are nothing but the forming, clasts are nothing but the. Now there are certain terminologies related to bone and your bone and articulation. First one is known as articulating surface. Articulating surface means a part of bone that enters into joint formation. दो bones अगर joint बनाते हैं तो एक bone का कुछ part होता है और दूसरे bone का कुछ part होता है. That comes together to form a joint. So it is nothing but the part of bone that enters into joint formation. That is a articulating surface. Now what is meant by articulation? So that is nothing joint between two or more bones. So articulation means joint. So the joints, if there is joint between two or more bones, that is known as the articulation in the anatomical language. Articulation. Joint is nothing but it is a broad term. Then body sinus means a hollow cavity within the bone. कि bone में अगर कोई cavity type का area है तो उसको बोलेंगे sinus. That is known as a body sinus. What is meant by border? A ridge of bone separating two surfaces. ठीक है, आपके बोन को अगर दो सरफेस है, यहाँ का एक यहाँ का, और एक रीज है या फिर एक लाइन है जिससे वो सेपरेट हो जाती है. सो रीज और लाइन ऑफ बोन दैट सेपरेट इनटू टू सरफेसेस, दैट इज नोन एज द बॉर्डर. देन condyle, what do you mean by condyle? So condyle is nothing but the smooth rounded projection of the bone that forms a part of joint. So joint बनाने के लिए देखो, बोन जैसे आपका नी जॉइंट है, नी जॉइंट में क्या होता है कि फीमर है आपका, टीबीए फीमर है. So at the joint there is a smooth rounded projection that is known as a condyle. Then next one is a facet. What do you mean by facet? So small, generally rather than flat articulating surface. So facet is also articulating surface. Am I audible to you clearly? Hello. Okay. Small and generally rather flat articulating surface. देखो facet भी articulating surface है, condylite भी articulating surface है, आपका ये articulating surface है. लेकिन facet मतलब that is a flat type of articulating surface. Then fissure or cleft. So a narrow slit, that is a narrow slit part of your bone is known as a fissure or cleft. Then foramen or pleural foramen. So if there is a hole in the bone structure, अगर bone है आपका उसमें कुछ hole है, ठीक है, तो वो hole को बोलेंगे foramen. For example, foramen magnum, which is the hole present in the your temporal bone through which spinal cord arises. That is a foramen magnum. Then fossa means a depression or a hollow cavity or depression present on the bone. That is known as a fossa. Then meatus means tube-shaped cavity within the bone. That is nothing but the tube-shaped cavity within the bone. Septum. What is meant by septum? So partition. It is a nothing but the partition separating two cavities. So if two cavities are there in the bone, that is separated by one partition. That partition is known as a septum. Then a spine, a sharp ridge on the bone. कि बोन में क्या होगा, कोई शार्प कुछ प्रोजेक्शन होगा, शार्प प्रोजेक्शन फॉर द आर्टिकुलेटिंग द बोन्स एंड tendons, that is known as a spine. Styloid process, sharp downward projection of the bone that helps to attachment of muscle and ligament. Styloid process जैसे आपका इसमें होता है जो vertebral column है, vertebrae में होता है styloid process. Then suture suture is immovable joint between the skull. Suture क्या है? That is an immovable type of fibrous joint in the skull. So whatever the different bones of skull, like frontal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone, okay? So lateral bone, those are attached by one fibrous, immovable fibrous type of joint. It's known as suture. This was question in GPAT, I think 20 suture. Now different bones present in the skull. So I'm not going to show you the diagrams and all that. So if you want to see diagrams and all that, you can see in the book. So now bones present in the skull. Skull में खोपड़ी में कितने बोन होते हैं? So there are 8 cranial bones and 14 facial bones. Okay, those are present in the skull. 8 cranial bones and 14 facial bones. So out of that, first we'll see the cranium. Cranium means what? Cranium is the skull. So what is the function of skull? So it protect the brain. So brain is the delicate organ which lies in the cranial cavity. Okay. So cranium के अंदर आपका bone होता है. So which protect the bone, and it the cranium will act as a base upon which brain will reset and hold. Reset and hold the surrounds. This cranium will cover the brain. There are immovable, mature, and fibrous kind of joints in the skull that is known as the sutures. This was an immovable, mature, fibrous type of joint present in the following structure. सब क्वेश्चन था जीपीएट 2019 में, दैट इज द सूचर्स. इसके स्केलेटल सिस्टम के ऊपर हर बार आपको एक या दो क्वेश्चन 100% मिल जाते हैं. This was about the cranium. Now bones of cranium. So there are 8 bones present in the cranium. आपके खोपड़ी में 8 bones हैं. तो first one is known as a frontal bone. Okay, so which is a one in number. So frontal bone 1, then parietal bone 2, two parietal bones are there. Then temporal bone are also 2. Then occipital bone is 1. So one ethmoid bone is there, one sesamoid bone is there. So like that there are 8 bones. Am I audible? ये दिखता है सब चालू है ना मेरे व्यवस्थित. So there are different bones present in the skull. So cranial bones are 8 in number and facial bones are 14 in number. Remember cranium में that is a fibrous immovable joints in the skull. Fibrous and immovable joint in the skull, that is known as the sutures. And in that cranium you have frontal bone which is a 1 in number. So frontal bone comprises orbital cavity. आपका जो eyeball जो eye sockets, that is also present in the frontal bone. That is a part of frontal bone. Then prominent ridge above eyes supraorbital margin. आपका जो eyelids वगैरह जो है इसके ऊपर जो है eyelids का, that is a margin. So that is also a part of frontal bone. Frontal and parietal bones are joined by coronal suture. This is known as frontal. This one is known as parietal. This one is known as temporal. This one is side का जो है जो occipital है, सामने वाला का frontal है. Frontal के बाद में आपका आता है. So the frontal and parietal bones are joined together by coronal suture. Frontal के बाद में parietal, उसके बाद में temporal, और उसके साइड में आता है आपका occipital. Remember, frontal and parietal bones are joined by coronal suture. There are 2 parts of frontal bone. They are joined together by frontal suture. Frontal bone, it is a 2-part bone. The bone itself is 2-part, and they are joined by frontal suture. Now next one is the parietal bone. Frontal bone के आगे वाला part, that is known as parietal bone. So bones from side and roof, bones which will form side and roof of the skull. जो आपका माथा ज्याला म्हणतात, that is your parietal bone. Okay, so they are joined together by sagittal suture. Okay, sagittal suture, frontal bone and this parietal bone. Sagittal suture. Next one is known as a temporal bone. So that is a squamous part, is a fan-shaped area. Squamous part, that is a part of your temporal bone, and which is a fan-shaped area. Zygomatic arc is also there. Zygomatic arc is also known as cheekbone, which is important for the production of your vital organs present in the ear. आपके कान में जो organs है, vital organs like eardrum and all that, that is protected by this cheekbone or zygomatic bone. That is a part of temporal bone. Next one is the occipital bone. This forms the back and head part of the skull. Occipital bone, back and head part of skull. Okay, occipital bone. Occipital bone that forms a back and head part of your base of skull. Atlas, the atlas is nothing but the first vertebra. Atlas is the first bone of vertebral column, that is known as the first vertebra. Atlas is known as the first vertebra, which allows the rotation of your head. The first vertebra known as the atlas, which is present just below the occipital bone, that allows the movement of your head. जैसे आप ना बोल सकते हो, हाँ बोल सकते हो, that is only because of the atlas. Atlas is the only vertebra in the vertebral column. Foramen magnum, what is meant by foramen magnum? Foramen magnum is nothing but the large hole present in the occipital bone, which spinal cord passes into cranial cavity. Foramen magnum, that is a large hole present in the occipital bone through which spinal cord passes into the cranial cavity. Foramen magnum. Now we'll see another bone known as a ethmoid and sesamoid bone. So ethmoid bone and sesamoid bone. These are again a part of your cranial bone. So ethmoid bone is also in one in number. ethmoid bone एक होता है और sesamoid bone भी एक ही होता है. मतलब 1 2 2 सब पूरा पूरा मिला के कितना हो गया देखो ये हो गए 1 2 2 4 5 7 8. There are 8 cranial bones. Now, ethmoid bone, what is it? It occupies the anterior part of base. Anterior मतलब सामने वाला. Occupies the anterior part of base of skull. सामने वाला part occupy करेगा ethmoid bone. Orbital cavity, nasal septum, which is formed. So whatever anterior part of skull is there. तो मैं आप मेरा nose दिख रहा है आपको eyes दिख रही. That is occupied by your ethmoid bone. It is very delicate bone consists of many sinuses. Sinus means opening. Sinus means opening. It is very delicate bone consists of many sinuses with the ciliated epithelium. Ciliated epithelium. Cilia lining. Now sphenoid bone. Again it is one in number. Middle portion of the base of the skull. It is a middle portion of the base of the skull. Base जो है skull का उसका बीच में वाला portion है. Sphenoid bone. It links the cranial and facial bones and possesses a basis for skull. Basis मतलब articulation surface. Olfactory nerve, that is a nerve responsible for the sense of smell that passes through this bone. Sphenoid olfactory nerve जो है sense of smell that passes through. So this was the bones of your cranium. Now bones of your facial bone or facial bone. के ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. How many number of facial bones are present? So total 14 number of facial bones. Total number of 14 facial bone is so out of that there are two nasal bones, two lacrimal bones, two zygomatic bones, maxilla, one mandible, one vomer, and two palatine bones. So two, two, four. So we'll see one by one. So nasal bones are two in number. Two flat bones which form a lateral and superior surface of the bridge of nose. साइड का और ऊपर का जो पार्ट है आपके नोज का that is formed by nasal known as two bones. A nose जो part आपका nose is formed by nasal bone. There are two nasal bones. Then lacrimal bones, two small bones which are posterior and lateral to the nasal bone and forms a part of medial wall of orbital cavity. यहाँ पे जो bones हैं that is a lacrimal bone. Then next one is zygomatic bones. Again they are two in the number known as cheek bone. ठीक है ये जो गाल दिख रहे हैं that is known as cheek bone. Two bones that fuse before the birth which forms prominences for cheeks. These originate as a two bones and that fuse before the birth. मतलब जब birth होने वाला है तब एक ही होता है बाद में उसका दो बनता है and that forms the prominences of cheeks. मतलब prominence मतलब जो external appearance आ रहा है आपको cheeks का that is because of the zygomatic bone. Now maxilla means upper bone. Maxilla means upper jaw. Upper jaw is known as maxilla. Lower jaw is known as a mandible. Remember this also. So two bones that fuse before birth. Maxilla forms upper jaw. Maxilla forms upper jaw. Anterior part of roof of mouth. Lateral walls of nasal cavity. Anterior part of roof of mouth. ठीक है मतलब क्या रूप मतलब क्या जो सीलिंग होता है सीलिंग ऑफ माउथ इज फॉर्म्ड बाय मैक्सिला अपर जॉ सामने से anteriorly that is known as maxilla and laterally walls of nasal cavity. साइड बाय साइड में क्या होता है साइड से क्या कहाँ पे अटैच है नजल के पार्ट ऑफ फ्लोर ऑफ orbital cavity. So nasal laterally it is attached to a nasal cavity and lower jaw is known as mandible. Lower jaw only movable bone in the skull. Remember this mandible is only movable joint bone in the skull. Only movable bone in the skull. बाकी सब फिक्स है बाकी कोई मूवमेंट नहीं. मैंडिबल का मूवमेंट है आप मैं इधर से बात कर रहा हूँ सिर्फ मैंडिबल हिल रहा है मेरा मैक्सिला फिक्स है ठीक है मैक्सिला इज आल्सो फिक्स्ड इट इज नॉट मूवेबल सो ओनली मैंडिबल इज मूव दैट इज नॉन एज द लोअर जॉ. Then next one is known as a wormer. So it is a thin plate that extend outward from the middle of the hard plate to form a most inferior part of the nasal septum. जो nasal septum है उसका एक bone है. Then there are two palatine bones L-shaped. They have L-shaped bone. Two small L-shaped bone known as a palatine. These are the bones of your face. Now there are certain other. These are known as bones of face. Now vertebral column. Next one is a vertebral column. इसमें क्या है? So this vertebral column is made up of your vertebra and it extends from your skull add up to coccyx, the pelvis. So that 24 vertebrae are there. Extend downwards to the bumps occipital from the occipital bone. So 24 separate vertebrae extend downwards to the bumps from the occipital bone of the skull. And then there is a sacrum. After there is a sacrum. Sacrum consists of 5 fused vertebra. Sacrum जो है आपका उसमें 5 vertebra होते हैं. Coccyx जो है that is the last bone. So coccyx is known as a marker heart. In a vertebral column, so there are 24 vertebrae which extend downward from your downward from occipital bone to occipital bone of the skull to the sacrum. Sacrum is nothing but it is made up of 5 vertebra. They are fused. 5 fused vertebra that is present in the sacrum. The coccyx is known as a marker heart. Coccyx is known as a marker heart. That is made up of 3 to 5 fused vertebra. So out of these 24 vertebra, there are 7 cervical vertebra. There are 7 cervical vertebra, 12 thoracic vertebra, 5 lumbar vertebra. Out of these 24, 7 cervical, 12 thoracic and 5 lumbar. Then intervertebral foramina is nothing but the foramina is nothing but the gap between two adjacent vertebral truncle throughout the vertebral column, and through this gap, this intervertebral foramina. So spinal cord will pass, spinal nerves will pass, spinal nerves and blood vessel passes. So whatever the intervertebral foramina is there, so foram intervertebral foramina मतलब दो वर्टिब्रल के बीच में जो ओपनिंग्स होती है, जो होल होते हैं, दैट होल इज थ्रू विच जो भी स्पाइनल नर्व्स है, जो भी आपका ब्लड वेसल्स है, जो भी आपका लिम्फ कैपिलरीज है, दैट विल पास आउट फ्रॉम दैट फोरामिना, intervertebral foramen. Now next one is known as thoracic cage. Thoracic cage, it will prevent, it will protect your internal vital organs like heart, your lungs and all that. Lungs, pancreas, liver, etc. etc. So all the digestive organ that is protected protected by this thoracic cage. This thoracic cage will start from the bone known as clavicle. Clavicle is known as a collarbone. Clavicle is known as a collarbone. Remember, collarbone is nothing but the clavicle. It is a S-shaped bone. It is a S-shaped bone. Clavicle is a S-shaped. The other way is कौन सा shape है? S-shape. Clavicle is a S-shaped bone. And sternum, जो sternum है, that is known as a wrist bone. Sternum is known as a wrist bone. Sternum is known as a wrist bone, which is a flat kind of bone. It's thoracic cage. Sternum. So इसके ऊपर याद रखो. Clavicle is a S-shaped bone. It is also known as a collarbone. Then your sternum is known as a wrist bone. Okay. And in the thoracic cage, there are 12 pairs of ribs. There are 12 pairs of ribs, and out of that, rib number 11 and 12. Rib number 11 and 12 are known as a floating ribs. They are known as a floating ribs. जो रिब्स होते हैं आपके 11 नंबर का 12 नंबर का, दे आर नोन एज फ्लोटिंग रिब्स. वो फ्लोट करते हैं, वो दे आर नॉट अटैच्ड टू द, दैट्स व्हाई दे आर नोन एज फ्लोटिंग रिब्स. देन अपर लिम्स. सो आपका अपर लिम्स में कितने बोन्स है? तो द अपर लिम्ब विल जॉइन टू ए ट्रंक via pectoral girdle. The joint with trunk via pectoral girdle. Upper limbs will join to a trunk. Trunk means your this part of your body. जो भी आपका main part है, that is known as trunk. These are known as upper limbs, your hands. So they will join by pectoral girdle. Pectoral girdle is nothing but it is present in the back side. जो shoulder है आपका, shoulder के नीचे वाला part, that is a pectoral girdle. The clavicle or collarbone. Clavicle or collarbone is a S-shaped bone, long bone, which articulate with the sternum. Articulate with the sternum, sternum के साथ में joint होता है. Scapula is a flat triangular shaped bone present posteriorly to the chest wall. Anteriorly मतलब सामने वाला जो है, वो सामने वाले जो भी है मेरे बॉडी के सामने, that is anterior. पीछे जो है वो that is posterior. Superior मतलब ऊपर वाला, inferior मतलब नीचे वाला. Superior that is from superior, that is the upper part. Inferior मतलब lower part. Inferior to this bone मतलब bone के नीचे. Superior to this bone मतलब वो bone के ऊपर. That is some terminology. Superior, inferior. Then your anterior मतलब सामने. Posterior मतलब पीछे. Scapula is a flat triangular bone present posteriorly to the chest wall. Chest के पीछे जो है, पीछे से, that is known as a scapula. Glenoid cavity with the head of humerus forms a shoulder joint. Glenoid cavity with the head of humerus will form a shoulder joint. Shoulder joint will be formed by two. That is first is glenoid cavity, head of humerus. So whatever this bone is, so this bone is your humerus that will form a shoulder joint to glenoid cavity. Humerus is the bone of upper arm, its tendons of biceps and triceps. Radius and ulna, two bones of forearm. तो आगे वाला part है आपका, that is known as a forearm, and in that you have two bones, radius and ulna. So out of which ulna is longer than radius. Ulna is longer than radius. So radius articulates with the ulna at elbow joint. उसके आगे क्या है? Carpels. Carpels are known as a wrist bone. Okay, wrist bone क्या है? Carpels. Carpels are known as wrist bone. Wrist bone. Metacarpals are also known as a metacarpal is also known as bones of hand. Hand bones जिसको बोलते हैं metacarpals. Phalanges. There are 14 phalanges. They are known as bones of finger. Finger bones. These phalanges are attached to by hinge joint. These are the different types of bone which are present. These are the upper bones of upper limbs. Upper limbs. Now lower limb we'll see the pelvic girdle. First we'll see the pelvic girdle and then lower limbs. It's time to give a quick review of this skeletal system. Pelvic girdle. Pelvis में कितने bones है आपके? So formed by two innominate hip bones. This pelvic girdle is formed by innominate hip bones. Innominate. Three part of hip bones. There are three part of hip bones fused together. Part of hip bone is nothing but the this ilium, ischium and pubis. These are three part of your bone. Hip bone मतलब आपका जो सीट जो जिसके ऊपर आप बैठते हो बोलते हो ना आओ तशरीफ रखो तशरीफ जो है that is nothing but the hip bone. तो hip bone is made up of three part ilium, ischium and pubis where they join together to form a hip bone. Pelvis is formed by hip bones and pelvis is formed by hip bones, the sacrum and coccyx. इस किसको बोलेंगे आप hip bones plus sacrum plus coccyx. So that is a hip bone. In comparison with the male, female pelvis has a higher bones and it is a shallow and rounded and has a generally roomier. मतलब इसका मतलब ये है कि जो फीमेल पेल्विस होता है वो थोड़ा सा बड़ा होता है मेल पेल्विस से कंपैरिजन. फीमेल पेल्विस इज मोर roomier because female has to give the birth of child. उनको जन्म देना होता है बच्चे को तो इसलिए उनका पेल्विस थोड़ा सा रूमियर होता है. उसमें रूमियर मतलब उसमें स्पेस ज़्यादा होता है. So that is shallow, rounded and roomier as compared to male. So female pelvis is larger. So that also that anatomical property also help to identify the dead bodies कि मेल का है डेड बॉडी या फीमेल का है क्योंकि मरने के 4-5 दिन के बाद पूरा बॉडी सड़ जाता है. ठीक है गल जाता है. तो सली सड़ी या गली बॉडी होने के बाद फिर आइडेंटिफाई कैसे करेंगे. इट इज अ ह्यूमन इट इज मेल और फीमेल कैन बी आइडेंटिफाइड बाय दिस. नाउ बोन्स ऑफ लोअर लिम्स. लोअर लिम्स में कितने बोन्स है? बोन्स ऑफ लोअर लिम्स. फर्स्ट इन फ्यूमर. फ्यूमर which is known as the largest and strongest bone. Strongest heaviest bone of the body. Largest longest heaviest bone. Okay. Longest and heaviest bone. Longest and heaviest bone. इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ चुका है. That femur is a longest and heaviest bone of body, also known as a thigh bone. Known as thigh bone. Tibia is known as also tibia is known as a shin bone. तो four leg मतलब नीचे वाला part tibia